The Democratic Republic of Congo has been dominating international headlines in recent weeks with its historic participation in this year's World Cup. However, its participation has been limited in certain ways as hundreds of fans were barred from traveling to attend the World Cup due to the unfolding Ebola outbreak in the country. The Ebola outbreak threatens the DRC at a moment when it is already facing a prolonged war in its eastern region. The years of war between the Rwanda-backed M23 and the DRC has been wreaking havoc, and there's many Western interests behind that war. We've had Kambale Musavuli on the show to talk about this before, and so to understand where that's at right now and to unpack protests that are unfolding right now in the DRC with regards to a referendum, we are once again joined by Kambale Musavuli, who's a researcher, Congolese researcher and writer, a member of the Tricontinental Institute for Social Research. Kambale, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Kambale, there's a lot to get into. And, of course, the Congo, despite being central to everyone's kind of daily life and functioning, is a country that is unfortunately often forgotten, and the impact of such kind of mineral extraction is often forgotten. But there was a Human Rights Watch report that came out last week alleging that Rwanda and the M23 are committing war crimes due to this conflict that's unfolding in the eastern part of the DRC. So can you talk to us first, give sort of a status update of what's happening in that region? What is this allegation of war crimes, and kind of where do things stand right now?
The Human Rights Report just emphasized what we have been saying, what the organization on the ground we're working with have been saying, not just now, not just last year, but for the past 30 years, right? Since 1996. We have had a conflict waged by U.S. allies Rwanda and Uganda. We invaded the Congo twice in 96 and 98, and today continue to support proxy rebels, right? So we're calling them 23 today. They used different names before. But what's important to know outside of the reports or the word that they use, allegations, we are past allegations. In 2010, the UN High Commission for Human Rights published a report called the UN Mapping Exercise Report. It documented the most serious violation of human rights and international humanitarian law. And in that report, it stated that what's happening in the Congo are war crimes, crimes against humanity, and possible genocide if proven in a competent court, right? And even in the report, it stated that the reason why we continue to see these crimes is because there is a culture of impunity. What does that mean? When I'm saying that M23 used to have another name before, right? They committed crimes before, they committed war crimes, but they have never been held accountable. So it creates a precedent where in 2026 today, they feel that they can commit any crime and there will not be any repercussion. And we know there is a country like that in the world, right? And that's Israel, right? Israel commits crimes, war crimes, and genocide. And the state of Israel believes that it cannot be held accountable. Right. But when we think about also what's happening in the Congo, we are seeing that Rwanda as a country, Uganda also as a country, are supporting rebels in the Congo, destabilizing the Congo. Reports after reports come out, condemning the situation, calling it allegation at times when the evidence is there. And yet, no one is tried, no one is in court. The Rwandan president keeps coming to NBA games. The Ugandan president keeps having his troops sent around the world on behalf of the United States in terms of U.S. interest, be it in Afghanistan, in Iraq, and other places. So that culture of impunity is what's causing this crime to continue. I don't have to hear it from Human Rights Watch. Family members are affected. People we work with are affected. And after 30 years, we want peace in DRC.
Mm. Yeah, it takes Mr. Ken Roth's, well, I guess it's not really his organization anymore, but it was for a very long time. It takes them a while to catch on, but I guess the fact that they did demonstrates just how bad things are. But Kambale, I wanted to ask you, how has the Ebola outbreak intensified the situation in the DRC? Has the ongoing war impacted readiness, and of course also the ability to react?
Yeah, the Ebola outbreak is unfortunate. We have an outbreak in Congo. I mean, this is not the first time we've had an outbreak in DRC. This is the 17th time. So it's important to also look at it in the context that Congolese health specialists, the frontline workers, have experience in how to deal with Ebola. They're the premier doctors in the world in knowing how to contain it. The challenge now that we face are twofold. One, the international pressure of creating a mechanism for funding where, at least from the local perspective, the money being flown into Congo to address the Ebola outbreak is not done in a way that is transparent, and that's causing a lot of issues and challenges with the people on the ground to trust that the international community has an interest. And second, the mistrust also of the government, right? The Congolese government in managing these funds there. So that's also creating complications. But the frontline health workers, we've had some who've been affected, but they've been stellar in dealing with it. Outside of that, we even have a group of African technologists. It's the African Emergency Technology Forum, Response Forum. It's a group of African technologists who are coming to provide technology solutions to that. But now for the area controlled by rebels, it's quite hard to have a coordination, right? A nationwide coordination where one part of the country has rebel who are controlling it, and the other part is the government or the DRC. But I've been able to communicate with some of the frontline workers. They know what they need. They need the gloves, they need the masks, the husband suits. They want to build the capacity to be able to test locally rather than shipping it for either a day or so. So it's how do we tap into the frontline health workers who are reachable to provide them with the support while also understanding the inadequacy of the international community to address it, and also the mistrust of the population with the efforts that the Congolese government is waging.
Yeah, I mean, this is all unfolding parallel also to another development in Congolese politics, which is that there have been protests across the capital, Kinshasa, against a proposed referendum, which some Congolese think paves the way for extending the presidential mandate through constitutional reform. So talk to us about what this means and why have people taken to the street in this moment?
The current government of DRC has a fundamental challenge. They do not have credibility or the trust of the population. And why? Why so? In 2018, there was a presidential election. That election was rigged. The voice of the people was not heard. At the end of the 2018 election, Felix Tshisekedi was declared the winner of the election. And it was through a secret deal, according to African intelligence. It was a deal between South Africa, Kenya, and Egypt, where the former president Kabila signed an agreement to leave power and hand power to Tshisekedi. That's not what the people voted for, right? The people voted for someone else, but through negotiation, the regime of Tshisekedi came into power. Since they've been in power in 2018 to now, there was another election, also more with many irregularities, that declared Tshisekedi again the winner. We believe that he will actually listen to the will of the Congolese people and take his 2 terms, right? So, which is 5-year term. He wants now, after spending 10 years, to create a system where he will stay longer. And he's using a few excuses to create a process. One being that in the East, we have a conflict. Second is that the Constitution of the Congo was written by Western nations. It's not really a Congolese constitution, which is, of course, not a legitimate answer. But concretely, what he's doing is going to remove the term limits, the presidential term limit, extend that term limit to 7 years. Right now, it's 5 years. And make that the next election in 2028 is the first time it will be running under the new constitution. So pretty much doing something that's been done before. Mobutu, the former dictator who ruled the Congo for 32 years, Those were the steps that he took to actually control the Congo. But he's doing it because he has the backing of the United States. Some people may remember that in December of 2025, the DRC signed an agreement, 3 agreements actually, 2 bilateral agreements with the United States for access to critical minerals in DRC, and one was mentioned as a peace accord between Rwanda and Congo. Right? But people have not looked at that mineral deal very closely. Right? It's estimated that that deal is close to $3 trillion, according to the Congolese envoy who sent a letter to Trump saying that come and take $3 trillion worth of minerals, right? It's giving the United States access to lithium. Congo has one of the largest reserves of lithium, giving them access to cobalt, to copper, to critical minerals, right? In exchange, quote unquote, for peace. So because of the deal that the US has, the current regime believes that they can stay in power, right? And that's why I said that this is what Mobutu did before. And this is what has been the US policy on the African continent, supporting the so-called strong man while they're oppressing the civilians and staying in power for longer. Now to what you shared before, that people have protested. No, it's happening in parallel as the World Cup is taking place. Congolese are not sitting idly by and waiting for the world to save them. They organize themselves to go in the streets to protest the current government's attempt to change the constitution. Unfortunately, they were assaulted by security forces. One of the opposition leaders was harmed really bad. He's doing a bit better now. And there was actually also one protester who was killed and many more who were harmed. That reminds us of the years of Joseph Kabila, the former president, who stayed in power for 17 years. But Congolese are not going to stop. They will continue to be in the streets to demand that the will of the people is heard. And I will end by what's happening in the World Cup. You know, there is a boycott in many corners around the world of what's happening with the World Cup. But in DRC at the moment, this World Cup means a lot to the Congolese people. For example, that to put that in context, the last time we went to the World Cup was in 1974. So many Congolese are watching this game, not for political reasons, right? But from the spirit that the world has counted us out, right? If you watch the Portugal game, everyone knew that Portugal is going to win, but that's not what took place. But what unfolded, you could see that a united Congolese, just similarly to what happened during Joseph Kabila time, that a sports game is uniting people to demand more for the government. And many people in a few days, they'll be able to see the gentleman that we call Lumumba Vea, the Congolese super fan, who dresses like Lumumba, who stands for the entire game. And for us, it means a lot to have Lumumba standing in a US game, demanding that the assassination of 1961, that it being known and that the American people held accountable for the assassination of Lumumba. So this World Cup for us has 2 meanings. One, the spirit of Lumumba being revived amongst the players, amongst the fans. And 2, that will continue to push our government in DRC to do the right thing by us, where the will of the Congolese people is heard, and that they do not change the constitution just for their own gains, but they look much more forward to the future where we control our own affairs, our land and resources.
Well said, Kambale. And, you know, before we let you go here, I wanted to ask, you know, because you've often come on our show and you've brought this up, you've talked about a lot about Western interests in the DRC and how Rwanda is used as this sort of proxy force in the region to control the DRC and among other things. Can you please remind our viewers, it's always important to remind people about the centrality of the Democratic Republic of Congo in the global supply chain and how Western countries can be held accountable for fueling the conflicts around that?
Yes. And it's sometimes said that the world doesn't know, but there are a few people who know the importance of DRC. Jeff Bezos knows the importance of DRC. Why? Because he has a company called Cobalt Metals that signed a $1 billion agreement. Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates. Bill Gates actually flew to DRC on a private jet to meet the president of the Congo. They signed a $1 billion deal with AVZ Mineral to get access to lithium. Donald Trump knows the importance of the Congo because while he was signing the peace deal, he said, we're going to make a lot of money, right? Starlink can't exist without Congo's cobalt. They need Congo's mineral resources, like critical resources for that. But the most important resource in the Congo is not the shiny rocks that they are picking up, right? Congo is the second largest African country by size, the fourth largest African country by population. We have 120 million Congolese with a very youth population. It's in the heart of the African continent. Every minerals known to man is found in the Congo. I call the Congo the periodic table. Whatever you can think of is in DRC, right? That wealth is so essential for the transformation of the African continent. So it's not by accident Patrice Lumumba was assassinated in 1960 when Dwight Eisenhower wanted to have access to Congo's uranium and cobalt during the so-called Cold War, right? They said, we can't have this young man who's connected to Kwame Nkrumah control the Congo. And fast forward to 1996, for 30 years, right? And I've been on your show, I've said over 6 million. Every year I'm saying over 6 million. We will never know how many millions of Congolese have died in DRC, right? Millions and millions have died due to the wealth of the Congo. And proxy nations, such as Rwanda and Uganda, have played the role of destabilizing the DRC, killing civilians, stealing the resources, all documented, and they are not held accountable for that. But in that process of these, the interests of Western nation and Western corporation, their interests are the raw materials. We, the people of the world, what is our interest? We want to break the chains that keep us hostage, where people are making profit over the people. So we are clear that the struggle of the people of the Congo who are fighting day and night is going to succeed, but it needs to be tied to the global resistance. That I see a website called Resistance AI, Resist AI. You know, they have even a manifesto. Why are people saying resist AI? Right? They are understanding that in the AI age, a few people will maximize the profit while the vast majority of us are struggling. Why is Elon Musk a trillionaire? People can talk about SpaceX, but I would say it's because of Congo's minerals. Without Congo's mineral, you will never have a $1 trillion estimation on the company, right? So how do we connect the artisanal miners in DRC, the mine workers in DRC, with the global resistance movement to hold corporations accountable? It can happen. We can connect, we can mobilize. People should go to freecongo.org and join us in our struggle. I believe that we will have relief, but we can't just talk about Congo outside of the global context. We are part of the puzzle, and we have to unite the Congolese struggle with the global struggle for liberation.
Well, Kambale, as always, incredible analysis there and important call to action. And I think you're very right to remind us that Elon Musk's wealth, Jeff Bezos' wealth, all of these billionaires and now trillionaires are actually making their profits off of the backs of Congolese miners, off the backs of workers. So these have to be linked in our understanding. So thank you so much, Kambale, and we will surely be back with you soon.
Thank you always.